The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Friday, the 25th day of February, 2022. Welcome to the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House One Communications and Linda's. I'm Jamal Hartman. She's Sherry Danson Vanderpoo, and Leanna Lambert will be with us in a bit to bring you the latest in her news break, brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Sherry, what's wrong with your neck today? What's up?
It's Friday. It's Friday.
Oh. Yeah. Well, you know what I say about people who like Fridays. Either they like to drink or they hate their jobs. Which one is it, Sherry? Just tell us you hate us. That's I'm trying to say you're not a big drinker. I'm trying to give you a compliment.
Well, alcohol got me in trouble already. So, but I, I love my job. I don't mind taking a break from it though. That's
No, but
fine.
hold on. Alcohol got you. Nah, I'm not gonna do that to you. I'm not gonna do it to you. I'm not gonna do it to you. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today as we welcome Sophia, Cannonier, and Mike Watson on to discuss natural immunity and also the latest with their case. If you haven't watched this show before, I absolutely love people who take a stand, especially when it doesn't go with the grain of popularity and politics of the day. So looking forward to the conversation with the both of them. It's I remember when we were fighting conscription and they came to my job to so-called arrest me. What a joke. No, it's funny because just people making jokes of the regiment yesterday in war, but it was funny because the late Reverend Ronnie Smith from Angle Street First Church of God said the majority of the people who have a lot to say about you and your fight and your stand will never ever fight or take a stand in their life. Yeah. And I think that's I'm pretty sure Sophia, Cannonier, and Mike Watson know this, but it's always refreshing to remind yourself that majority of the people that will call you names and go against you are the same people who probably will hide from taking a stand for themselves. So I'm looking forward to the conversation. The Daily Play, I think Sherry's trying to stump the stumpster, so we'll see. We'll see what she has for me. Folks, I tell you, it's not easy being Sherry trying to stump me. I'm pretty good at this stuff.
We shall see.
We shall see. So before we get to the our focus for the day, so we were going to talk about the budget, but obviously, we let's just let's have the budget. Let the premier read his budget. We'll discuss that after. But something else happened, and we were going to talk about it yesterday, but said, no, let this play out, and I'm glad we did. So, according to the Royal Gazette, Marcus Jones quits as opposition senator. So, Marcus Jones, if you have a short memory or you're much younger, he was actually a candidate for the Bermuda Progressive Labor Party, if I'm not mistaken, in the 2012 election. And then he was all of a sudden part of the One Bermuda Alliance some years later. But anyway, basically he quit, handed in his resignation to Cole Simons, the leader of the One Bermuda Alliance. And here's what Cole Simons, the leader, said. This, according to the Royal Gazette, today has been a whirlwind of a day as the island waits to learn of its fiscal future. I have been dealing with a serious issue that needs immediate attention. The comment made by Senator Marcus Jones in the upper house during Wednesday's Senate session. To say I'm saddened by the comments made by Senator Jones is an understatement. while it was not his intent to offend anyone, truthfully, intent doesn't matter sometimes. If someone's being murdered, they're like, I know people try to say, oh, it was hate crime or whatnot, but the result's still the same. His words were perceived by some as hurtful towards young people, females, and victims of assault. So, long story short, I know you're asking. I know you're like, Jamal, just read what did he say, right? So he was in a little debate, and let me not minimize it. He was in a debate in the Senate with government senator Lindsey Simmons. And what he said, Mr. Jones said, there was imagery featuring teenagers online that would absolutely make your hair stand on end. He went on to say, I do believe our young people are inviting this type of behavior because they are ignorantly getting on social media and putting themselves in harm's way. The question of the morning, my friends, is what can we learn from the comments and resignation of one Bermuda Alliance Senator Marcus Jones? And I can tell you, the Premier David Burt's probably welcoming this distraction. Okay.
Is he ever? What we can learn from it is that a lot of times we need to think, not a lot of times, we need to think before we speak. I understand that, Senator Lindsey Simmons also has some background in these issues as well. So it definitely, I'm sure, touched her quite differently, as well it did everybody else. What the senator needed to have done is just had a thought out process on what he was trying to convey. And I think that's where he missed it. His conveying of what he was trying to say versus what actually came out. And sometimes people will say what actually came out is really what you meant. I'm just saying.
Sherry, I concur. I believe that the language, the words he chose, and Tanya Cheeseman says it right here. It's important to choose your words wisely. The words he chose, let's just go back sometime. First thing people need, and I don't know how old he is, don't know what generation he's in.
Okay.
But you cannot use the words that you used in the year 2000, in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, in the 60s that you can use today. That's number one that people have to understand. It's a different environment. It's a different environment. And so that's the first thing is my advice to the One Bermuda Alliance was, and maybe the Bermuda Progressive Labor Party, is train those who are coming on board to be in these positions. Because if they haven't evolved to understand that they need to be a bit more cautious in terms of the wording that they're using when communicating, because at the end of the day, you are communicating to the public. This is what's going to happen. You're going to be in this kind of trouble. So that's number one. Number two, intent. I get what Cole Simons and others are saying. It was not his intent. And that may be the case. But honestly, when I first saw it, I said, oh boy, brothers lost what? You literally a victim blaming. That's the first thing I thought. I'm like,
right.
Is he blaming? I asked myself, is he blaming the victim for this? No, I don't think that's what, like people who were saying that wasn't his intent. Right? But I'm trying to think of an analogy that can make him sound okay. Let's say, okay. Here's one, Sherry. It's ridiculous.
Okay. All right.
So 2 people are out late at night riding. One is on his way home from cheating, right? from his side, right? He's on his way home from his side.
Okay.
The other is drunk, right? They hit each other. The drunk person's in the wrong. The drunk person's intent wasn't to hit this person, but they were drunk, right? And so the effects, their actions led to. I don't know if this. I'm trying to make sense of. I'm really trying to make sense of Marcus Jones' intent, folks. Seriously.
Well, when you use the word drunk, there's there was an influence that changed his perception, correct? So
Mhm,
with Marcus Jones, unless he had some type of influence over him to change his intent and
mhm.
what he was saying, then I think that could match. But as
Okay.
far as we know, he didn't have anything within his system that made his focus off.
Maybe he'll get a break if he said he did. But no,
Maybe
that's a good point.
this is the time to say that you was on some prescription meds that did something to you.
Something. Mishka Fubler says the intent versus impact defense was a cop out, right? And I think that's what annoys people. Look, the first thing I want to do is commend the process for being so fast with his resignation. It was
Hmm.
very quick. It was swift. It was swift. But what can we learn from this? The reason that's the question, what can we learn, is because this is not something that should be happening in 2022, folks.
And the thing is, Jamal, is what you said, because the word inviting was probably the one word that was like, eh. And so from what you said, they need to bring on, and probably all government departments or up there need to bring on a person that can definitely sit with people and say, hey, times have changed. These are the
Correct.
words that we need to avoid,
Correct.
through saying. They need to have some type of prep work once
Hmm.
they come in, into those positions, and
Hmm.
that greatly should help minimize some of the conversations that are being said.
And Sherry, not to get too personal with it, but obviously you've been in this field, you've dealt
Hmm.
with victims and so on. You may have a better understanding of how victims may feel about a comment like this coming from someone who's put in a position to design laws and policies to protect them.
Well, the feeling is exactly how I'm sure Senator Lindsay felt, as well as we all. It was appalling.
Mhm,
It's hurtful. You trigger some people to go back to really thinking, was it my fault?
mhm,
Did I really do something that somebody else had control of
mhm,
themselves?
mhm,
So it does re-trigger people to, that blaming of themselves for putting themselves in a position
mhm,
that wasn't necessarily there at the time. So
mhm.
yeah, it's very appalling.
Yeah. Monica Dunson says the word invite suggests victim blaming, agreeing with you, Sherry.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Cat Place says, while reality may be bleak, and yes, social media brings certain unwelcome nuances, there is a better way to get the message across. He could have said, young ones, choose your friends wisely, simply put. There's so many other things that he could have done or said. He could have said nothing. He could have said what we're suggesting that he should do. Maybe young people need training on social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, it's very different when you say they're inviting certain behaviors. Look,
Right.
there's absolutely no time we should be making an excuse for bad behavior. Not honestly, we should not be making an excuse for bad behavior. And I legit, Sherry, even as you see me today, I'm trying to make sense of it, right? Trying to make sense of it in a manner that we can say, you know what? I think it was just a bit wrong in terms of how he delivered it or words he chose, but makes sense in this way. Richard Augustus, Sherry.
Is this another case of cancel culture, freedom of thought and expression under attack? Not defending Jones. Um, I don't think it's about cancel culture. And yes, he does have freedom of thought and expression, but we also have to put it in context and where you are in regards to saying it, and what are you trying to convey? And I go back to what Jamal said. There is a different set of wording now that must be used, because those ones of it the past are not good. Placing people in positions, using words of, being mindful of your surroundings, being concerned about what you may put out there as far as what can come back to you. It's different ways he could have said
Well,
it with the same and
I enjoy when people say that because there's no such thing as freedom of expression, freedom of speech. What I think we tend to do is think that that means freedom without consequences. Even our
Right.
guest today, um, Michael Watson and Sophia Cannonier, they took an action. There were consequences for that action, and they're going to court for it. This doesn't mean that we can just do what we want, regardless of what we believe. So, as far as I'm concerned, no, this is not anything to do with cancel culture. No, maybe his comments regarding to his support for Donald Trump, former President Trump, maybe that would have been considered cancel culture. But this, no, because to me, I think his comments personally
Right.
were inappropriate. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a line that has to be drawn, and I think it's dangerous because you literally we just discussed a gentleman who was released from prison, right, who committed one of the most heinous crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine his victim listening to that and feeling like, although she may not have been on social media back then, whatnot, feeling like she's to blame for whatever this person did to her. So
Right.
no, I can't buy
And
into freedom of thought or freedom of expression with that. Monica Dunstan says, however, is atrocious what these 10 to 12-year-olds are posting nowadays. That's different.
mm-hmm.
That's different in
Yes.
this respect before anyone else. That's different because what I think she's doing is saying we need to probably focus on making sure they're posting more responsible stuff. She's not blaming them for anything.
Right. And it goes back to, like I said, words. Do we use these same words? Are people on birth certificates? I saw a birth certificate that would have been out in 1950s, and it categorized as the parents as Negro. Are we going to see Negro on birth certificates nowadays? No. You see
No.
African American, you'll see Black, you'll see different, those kind of words. You don't see white no more. You see Caucasian. The words change as
Mhm.
the times have changed, and he just needed to find a different word to convey the same message.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, that said, what can we learn from this, folks? I think what seems to be the consensus is language,
Mm-hmm.
words, making sure that we're using the right words when we're explaining ourselves, and we're all guilty of it. I mean, you all sit here with me mornings daily. You know we're all guilty. I'm putting us all in that boat, not just me. We're guilty of it, right?
You're the captain of the ship.
Yeah. Sometimes it happens like that, Sherry. But also, I think some sort of training, right?
Yes.
Or onboarding process. When you start a new job, there's usually onboarding, right? So I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe an onboarding process with new people who are being appointed to the Senate or people who are thinking about running for office with political parties. I do believe maybe some sort of training may be needed. Monica Dunstan and Michael Daniels for you, Sherry.
Education is needed. It should be part of our curriculum in every school.
Mm.
And there is a need for people to get some honest feedback on the opinions we have. Social media is not making it.
Mm.
Mm.
I like that one. Don't get me started, Michael Daniels. Don't get me started on that one. We just had a side convo about that yesterday.
Oh, a long one.
Social media. Oh boy, we had that one. But I concur with that. It's look, and I think it's an important conversation we can't ignore. And you never want to see something like this take place. But
Yeah.
one of the things that I do give credit for, and we have to give credit where it's due, even if it should have never been said, or what if it's done this way. But credit that the resignation happened swiftly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know necessarily what the process was, but my hope is that whoever replaces the now former Senator Marcus Jones is someone who does understand how to conduct themselves in a 2022 political environment.
And I want to commend Senator Lindsey Simmons for standing up and speaking and saying,
Mhm,
and holding him accountable as
mhm,
well, because she could have just skimmed over it and kept it moving.
mhm.
So I definitely want to highlight that.
Indeed, James Burt says the conversation is still about the behavior of the victim. Something is always missing. Um, help me understand what you mean by that.
Mm.
James.
We need some help, James.
Yeah. Educate me. Let's bring Leanna in for the real quickly. Gotta get to that news break. We have some special guests waiting backstage. Good morning, Lee. How are you, sister?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning,
I am
Lee.
good. Like Sherry, I am excited. It's Friday right now, so
Mm.
Ask her these same questions.
Yeah. I'm not gonna call her a drinker, but something,
Ooh.
you know.
No, I am still on a detox actually. So
Oh, okay. Congratulations.
yeah, I'm going on a month and a half detox right now. So it's feeling good. The body's feeling great. I'm excited about that.
I'm
Willpower,
impressed.
Oh, okay. Well,
especially for
Find out.
someone who works, in the wine and spirits industry.
okay.
Yeah, on boots and everything too.
I
Are
need
you
to see
making
it.
out?
I need to see it to believe it, folks. See it to believe it. I ain't got no proof, so I'm just gonna take it for what it is.
I believe you, Lee.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank
Of
you very
course you
much.
would. I mean, girl power and stuff. Anyway, Lee, over to you. Take that news over to you, sister.
Thanks, Jamel and Sherry and TGIF, to everyone that's tuned in with us today. I hope you all are having a great start to your day. I'm Leanna Lambert, and it's time for the Daily Hour News Break, brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Well, in today's top stories, it's the day we've all been waiting for. It's Budget Day. However, Premier and Minister of Finance David Burt has signaled that the new target for achieving a balanced budget has now been delayed by 1 year to fiscal year 2024-2025. Now, the Premier said in a statement last evening during the last budget presentation, the government was projected to balance the budget by the next fiscal year, being 2023 and 2024. However, he said that people still need help and our most vulnerable will continue to need support. Now, he went on to say that government will also continue to implement their economic recovery plan, reform Bermuda's healthcare and education systems, and fund necessary capital investments to replace and repair aging infrastructure, all of which means that meeting this target will not be possible in the next fiscal year. Now, the statement in support of the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the fiscal year 2022-2023 will be made today, with proceedings to begin at 10 a.m. In other news, members of the Ukrainian community of Bermuda gathered yesterday on the steps of City Hall, waving the Ukraine flag to show support and solidarity for each other and their homeland. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been widely condemned by the international community, and Western nations have levied various sanctions against Putin's regime, and the Bermuda Monetary Authority has posted the sanction notices on their website. Now, Bermudians, like many around the world, are closely following the news from Europe as Russian troops advance on the nation. Now, as of yesterday, international media reported that at least 57 people had died and 169 injured since Moscow launched the invasion. Meanwhile, Taj Mohammed was convicted yesterday of the 2018 premeditated murder of Reniko Burchell. The 6-man, 5-woman jury delivered a unanimous verdict of guilty of the gun murder and use of a firearm to commit the offense. 30-year-old Mr. Burchell was shot in the head at close range as he left a Christmas party at the St. David's Community Cricket Club just after 1:30 a.m. on December 29th. Now, he was rushed to hospital, but sadly died of his injuries the next day. The court heard one witness, who cannot be identified for legal reasons, that Muhammad confessed that he had carried out the shooting months after the murder. Speaking after yesterday's verdict, Detective Inspector Jason Smith said that while he welcomed the judgment, there were no winners in the case. He said it was a collaborative effort which brought about the results, and thanked the witnesses that came forward, saying that they were very bold and courageous. And health officials have announced that the number of active COVID-19 cases has gone up slightly. There were currently 217 cases reported. Hospital figures remain the same as Monday, with 5 patients being treated in hospital, with none in the intensive care. Taking a look at today's weather, we have a high near 72 and a low near 65 degrees. This morning, we see an early and late clouds hanging around, but things will get brighter by this afternoon. High pressure keeps settled and dry conditions into Saturday, as it will be a bright start with a few passing showers from evening onwards. Then a weak cold front drifts in from the north, bringing increased cloud cover and a few showers by late evening. It turns unsettled once again in advance of a second cold front expected by Monday night. That's all for our Daily Hour news break, brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Now let's head back to Jamal and Sherry in the studio for today's Daily Focus.
Leanna, I don't think your dog liked the weather report today.
I don't think so either. I was like, oh, she's just going to show herself this morning, isn't she?
It happens like that. Lee, Sherry, what day of the year is it? Give it to us. Give it to us.
Wow, I just busted out laughing. Ironically, it is Brazil Carnival. It's actually supposed to start today, but they actually pushed it back to April due to Corona. But normally it starts today, and it's all about, of course, colorful costumes, music, dance, parades, food, and festivals. It's the perfect opportunity to engage and overindulgence before starting the period of Lent. The carnival depicts different cultures, primarily Portuguese and African, and a lot of tourists all around the globe get to enjoy Brazil Carnival, and it fills the atmosphere with joy, enthusiasm, and so forth. And it happens in Rio.
Well, don't let Dr. Seaman find out about Brazil Carnival, folks. Oh boy. Look.
When does Lent actually begin? Sorry for my
Ash Wednesday.
Yes.
When is Ash Wednesday?
When's Ash Wednesday?
Isn't it March 5th? It's coming up, right?
Next week.
Don't get my yourself in trouble, folks. Anyway,
what you giving up for Lent, Mel?
Yeah, I don't quit things. I'm not a quitter.
You're not a quitter. You're not a quitter.
I don't know. I changed my life. I'm not a quitter. Lee, I'll think about that thing. I'm gonna think about it.
Yeah, let's think about that. Yeah. I think we need to collectively come in next week and see what we're giving up for Lent.
Collectively. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe French fries. Instead of 5 days a week, I'll have them 4. All right, Lee, we'll see you next week.
See you guys next week. Have a great weekend. French fries is not something
you
I'm giving
too,
up.
madam. All right, folks, we got to take a quick break. We're going to be back with our special guest for the day. We've got Miss Sophia Cannonier and Michael Watson coming to the show. I'm excited. I like people who take a stand. Stick with us.
Let's face it, life can be a little wild, but shopping doesn't have to be. I choose People's, so that whether it's a prescription that needs to be filled, a toy for my little terror, or a gift for a new addition to the family, we'll see about that. Everything's available in one convenient location. Some call it People's, I call it my one-stop shop in the city. People's, we're here for you.
Hi, I'm Karen, a nurse at the old folks home. These long hours used to kill my feet until my hairdresser told me about a great place to buy a pair of clogs. Medical House. Finally, relief. They also carry uniforms in bright, bold colors. And not to mention the support stockings.
Karen, Miss Soltis bet her bet again.
Oh gosh, these days, I need all the support I can get.
Medical House has relocated next to the Dendy Town Field, number 6 Bakery Lane, Pembroke.
This month, we're again featuring an important dealer in the whole food industry. Aurora Natural Products, who started in Connecticut in 1998 with 4 employees and now employ hundreds, all devoted to producing a wide variety of all natural and organic goods to an ever-expanding market. Aurora have become a national leader in the whole food distribution business and are ever mindful of the big picture, monitoring the path of each and every ingredient from their source to your table. Try Aurora Natural Raw Shelled Pistachios. Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. Sherry Vanderpool. I'm Jamal Hartman. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by Medical House One Communications, Lindo's, and People's Pharmacy. Without further ado, let's bring our guest for the day. We have Sophia Cannonier and Michael Watson. Welcome to the show, to the both of you.
Hi.
Well, You know what? I've seen you, Sophia, in the comments, but it's great to actually have you on camera and be a part this way. And Michael, also you just having a slight conversation with you prior to coming on air. So, but thank you to you both for making the time to come. Let's just get to it as we are behind time. Shara's apologist, as she likes to go on sometimes. But just speak to the audience about natural immunity. Believe it or not, there are people who still don't know what natural immunity is, what it means. What is natural immunity?
So, natural immunity, first and foremost, I'm not a doctor or an expert, but just based on our experience and also how we come to kind of understand this about COVID, natural immunity is your body's ability to naturally fight any virus or bacteria. Your body builds up an immune response based on the infection, and it produces antibodies, which can then actually fight the virus in the future. That's a very simplified version of what natural immunity is.
I mean, simply enough for me to understand, and I'm not the smartest apple in the jar, right? What people, let's get a bit personal. So, we had people, some who may have been a part of this show, who were calling you all sorts of names when you, took the stand you did, selfish, entitled. Why did you both decide to take a stand against the government's rules regarding filling out the travel authorization, regarding the 14-day quarantine? Why was it important for you to take that stand at that time and for this issue?
We found it was someone had to stand for the truth, and we were going to do it. Maybe many people will think that they'll get mad at you for speaking your truth. But why don't people get mad at people speaking the lies? So we had to stand for truth, and that's who we are.
Yeah, no, understood. And it's interesting you say stand for truth, because the way it's playing out, and I'm not saying that you've been, proven correct, but it seems like it's heading that way. And what do I mean by that? Well, I came across an article earlier this month on thehill.com. Not sure if people have heard of thehill.com. I would say it's a liberal medium, right? And it was February 22nd. The CDC, the headline reads, the CDC is finally recognizing natural immunity. And it says legislators should follow suit. What I found interesting about this is the authors explained and this report was taken from a CDC report, and the research was done in cases in California and New York from in 2021 of May 30th, right, to November 20th of 2021. And so it included the Delta variant as well. But that said, when you see articles like this, do you feel as if, this validates your stance and helps your case that for some reason keeps being pushed back?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that what we sensed and felt last year was not just based on a whim. We'd actually done our research. We'd actually gone in and taken our antibody checks. We've actually just had our 4th antibody check now to see if we still have active antibodies from the virus that we had back in January of 2020, and we still do. So when these articles and this research is coming through, it's really just helping to identify kind of what we already sensed and kind of understood about our own bodies back then. I don't want to say that I told you so. I don't think we want to come from that place, but I think the bigger picture, the bigger problem is that we often all too frequently hand our responsibility for self over to other people. And so when we get sick or something happens to us, we are quickly blaming other people for the situation that we are in. We've been very proactive with our health our whole lives. It's our profession. So we understand that need to take responsibility for self. Hence why when we got sick, we took it upon ourselves to get our antibody checks to see actually if we had the virus, and also to see what level of virus we had, and even to determine whether it was actually COVID-19. Because of course, flu didn't go away. On a side note, last summer, all 3 of our children got chickenpox. So, lockdowns, mask wearing, all these things have not stopped chickenpox from moving around. So this idea that we've been proactive with our health the whole time and trying to understand, what our bodies are doing, as opposed to maybe turning that over to a doctor or an authority.
Interesting. I haven't heard the chickenpox in a long time. Gee.
A very long time. We understand that you both have a case pending. What is the latest on your court case, and why are you confident that you'll win?
The date is March the 21st. However, the energy around it is that it is, the Crown is constantly trying to push it back. So we feel that they're running, which is fine. We're running towards them, right? They can run, but we are like, oh, come, we want to do it now. We wanted to do it in November. We wanted to do it in December. We wanted to do it in February, and it just keeps getting pushed back. So that's fine. We're ready for March 21st, and ask away. We can tell you what we need to tell you, the public. If you want to know what's going on, let's talk about it. So we're ready.
So, but why are you confident that you both will win this case? Just speak to us about what makes you so confident that this is a case that you're going to win.
Well, we want this trial to have a local impact, and we want this trial to have a global impact. We want the restrictions to immediately end, and we feel confident that the truth needs to be put into the court system to be told, to be exposed.
And can I add as well to this, which is maybe the bigger picture for everybody, through all these restrictions that we've had, there isn't really one group of the Bermuda community that has not been in some way discriminated or affected. And for us, it was an extreme situation where we were traveling to take our children, collect our children from school to return to Bermuda, and then found ourselves in this predicament of being told that we had to stay in a hotel for 2 weeks in a quarantine. Now, imagine our position. We'd already had 2 antibody tests done by that point. We knew we had antibodies. We knew that we weren't carrying the virus at that point because we tested negative on pre-flight and on arrival into Bermuda. And not only that, we'd had the virus already. And then we were told that we had to go into a quarantine situation for 2 weeks. Both of us are self-employed entrepreneurs. That's 2 weeks off of work. And then to add on top of that, it's 2 weeks of paying for a hotel in Bermuda, which, with all the restrictions and lockdowns that have happened over the last 2 years, certainly for my profession, I'm a manual hands-on therapist. I was at the very bottom of the totem pole with people returning to work. I was phase 4.5. I didn't even get back into work until much, much later than everybody else. So add all of that together. You've been out of work, we've not been working. We're now told that we have to pay for 2 weeks in a quarantine in a hotel facility. The money wasn't there. And therefore, and not only that, we weren't a threat to public health because we knew that we had antibodies and we had the virus, and we could also prove that. But it fell on deaf ears. No one was prepared to listen to us back then.
With all the attention that your case has brought, and with the stance that you have taken, if you had to do this again, would you do it any differently?
No.
I do it again tomorrow. Like now, ready. I'm getting on the plane. I'm going to come back and do the same thing.
Well, let me just add to that. In the thought process of taking this stance, did you think this thought process out from beginning to where we are now?
Yes, I did. So very quickly, January 2020, we returned from taking our children to school in England. They're at the Royal Ballet School. And upon returning, we had tested positive. We knew we had some COVID brush. We then I went to the Royal Gazette, to Heatherwood, to say, look, this is where we're at. This is what I have. I'm recurrent person number 341. Can you do a story on antibodies? Because we've recovered. Why aren't people paying attention to recovered? The editor of the Royal Gazette said, too alarmist, we can't run it. And they kept sort of tagging, pushing us along to say, well, when you have your antibodies, we'll think about running your story. So we came back to them. We said, we have our antibodies. Now can you run the story? We need to stop this this fear from growing in this community, like about this situation. And so it was very hard for us to get the tests, the antibody tests. All the labs were not permitting. The government was not permitting the labs to do the tests. I found this out because when I sit still for 2 weeks, I get to work on finding out what I need to do. So I spoke to the Bermuda Health Council, and I said, why, for a whole hour, why are you not allowing people to have antibody tests? And they said it was going to interfere with the government's rollout of the injections, just like that. And I said, well, that's not good enough. So we then just kept going to find out where we could get these antibody tests done. It was at KAMH, and as Michael said, we've done it for 4 times. So leading up to going to see our son graduate from the Royal Valley School in July of last year, we knew that we were not a significant threat to this community at all, and we were not going to do what the government was saying that needed to be done for people who were not injected. No one was paying attention to the recovered persons, and they still are not thoroughly paying attention to us, and we have all the information in our bodies. So yeah, it was totally thought out from the very beginning, and it could have been exposed back in January 2020 in the Royal Gazette, but we all know that the media is censored. So here we are today. So that's why the court is running, and that's why we are running after them. We want to get in and tell people this.
Nothing like a good race.
With all that being said, and all the information and research that you have done, what do you hope that the public learns from your experience?
One more thing. We hope that what we did gives people courage. It helps their courage to rise up, get rid of their fear, or use their fear and turn it into courage, and do exactly what we did and take their grievances to court, because that's the way we're going to make these things change.
And from my day-to-day perspective, being in Bermuda, the beautiful thing about being in a small community is the profile that we've taken with this story. Every day I get people coming up to me saying, where can I get my antibody checks done? We support what you're doing. Here's my story. This is what happened to me during COVID. And people want to share these stories because there is no outlet. They're so fearful of reprisal from actually saying something about what's going on for them, whether it be, an incident that happened with the child from being in school with a mask, issues with potential vaccines, issues with quarantine, issues with domestic violence issues. I mean, you keep going and keep going. There's so many layers of unseen trauma that are going to come out of these last 2 years that we're only going to start to really scratch the surface of and start to heal this community. And it can only heal if people start to speak out. So the standing up piece is not about being defiant. It's about healing trauma. And it's something I work with daily in my own practice, in the work that I did. And I see it when people come to me in the supermarket, pull me inside and say, you know what, this happened to me. And they're coming to us, they're confiding in us. And it feels hugely powerful, feel very deeply respectful and honored to be in that place. But for a lot of people, they don't want to publicly come out and say something. So I think for us, the piece of, we're being here, maybe slightly reluctantly being the figurehead of this movement. But at the same time, offering hope to other people who maybe feel that they don't have a voice.
Yeah, I like what you said. It's not about defiance, because people tend to think that, oh, they just want to be defiant, they don't want to go along. But
I want to be defiant.
No, but
I'm not taking this. I love it, but I'm defiant. Okay.
I don't think the idea is just you just want to be defiant. Is the point I'm making. It's not, you're not there just to be defiant, but defiance is part of the process. It's
Right.
part of the process indeed. We got some questions from the audience. Michael Daniels is asking, do you agree that your stance was not essentially against the Bermuda government?
I would say, speaking to friends and family all over the world, this has been something that has happened everywhere. And the defiance or, going against the government is not necessarily directly, but it's how do we address this on a global level? Odd that countries all over the world have adopted very similar measures. That could be a whole other conversation. But I do think that, it's against the measures, the emergency powers that are being maybe abused by the governments. Maybe that's a good way to put it.
Interesting. Sherry, you had something you want to?
No, I appreciate their stance. I like that it was a quiet but loud stance. You understand what I mean? So for me, it was, you are doing what you feel is in the best interest of you and your family. It was quiet but loud. And like Jamal said, stances and standing for something has a consequence. And I appreciate that you're not running from the consequence in addition to what you're standing for. And I think that's the difference between the two of you and other people that may be taking the same type of stance.
What I find interesting is, Sophia, you have said that they're pushing the case back and you're running towards them, and it reminds me of with Bermudians Against the Draft. People kept saying you guys could have just went up there, got off, and you didn't have to go to court and fight this case. And I'm just like, you're really missing the big picture. The law is wrong. It's not about us not going and complying. It's the law needs to be changed, and that's where I relate to you so much, because it's you're putting yourselves out there. You're putting your probably business opportunities on the line. I actually saw someone who was standing up with you all, and whether people liked the person or not, but someone wrote, I was going to utilize your services, but no longer after the stance that you're taking. Now, whether we like the individual or not, if that's where we're at,
that's okay.
But it's crazy how that works.
For you.
If you have any questions or comments for Sophia and Mike, please send them through. I'll get through as many as possible. James Burke says, how should we have handled those who survived the virus early from being accidental carriers of the virus to those likely to be severely ill or not survived, who would be more likely to be less ill or survive after better treatments were developed later on, or be able to train their immunity with a vaccine to recognize the virus once available?
Ooh,
sounds like James Burke needs to come on your show and answer that question himself.
Well, I guess
so
that's the response.
I think probably the bigger picture is that at the very beginning of this, we really didn't have an overall sense of what was happening, and there can be some misgivings and understanding of the fact that maybe governments were not fully understanding of what was happening. And that's okay, right? And there can be forgiveness around that, and there can be compassion around that. But as things went on and these measures were still in place, and as the picture started to emerge from underneath, that we actually knew a lot more about this. And it was the reluctance of the governments to shift their stance as things progressed. I think that's kind of where we are at. In terms of like those early illnesses, those early viruses, those early people that contracted it, a lockdown maybe was required, right? The need to pursue a vaccine was required. We needed to figure out a way of doing this. But certainly, again, in my world of understanding problems, there are many paths up the mountain. And governments became very myopic quickly in their approach to treatment, to the point where even treatments were being rejected because they said, well, they don't work. Well, but you're quick to use this new vaccine to try and solve the problem. So for me, that thing of early on, we can be compassionate and understanding around what governments had to do back then because they were still learning. But as we move forward, we have to find the multiple paths that take us to the top of that mountain.
I get James' question now, and based on your response, in terms of, you definitely don't want to, you don't want to seem like you're not compassionate for those who have, we've lost and so on. I get it. But I guess, is there common ground in something like this? Because, and I'm just going to use what Sherry said when Eugene was on the show, is you both are very healthy people. Eugene, as Sherry said, you're healthy. You look at your skin. She was raving about his skin, right? But I only say that because there are people, let's just be honest. We've had professionals on this show who have said Bermuda is a very unhealthy population. And so what may work with antibodies, and I'm not stating, what may work with you may not work with others. Would that be correct? And if that's correct, then maybe the vaccine would have been a better option. But what I'm getting from you, and again, stop me and correct me if I'm wrong any place, what I'm getting from you is that the same rules should not be applied to every person. Is that what I'm getting from you? Because if that's what I'm getting, this is easy, open and shut, right?
Absolutely. Because, why not take it? If I go to my doctor and have a certain set of symptoms, he's not going to treat me in the same way that the last person walked through the door. He has to look at me as a single human whole being, that's functioning with trauma, life, parenting, education, all these things build the individual up. And if I get treated the same way, that one size fits all approach to medicine, it's not going to work. And we're seeing that. And we saw that the efficacy of the vaccine did drop with Omicron because the vaccine wasn't designed for Omicron. So therefore, why would you treat me using the same medication? So for me, that individuality piece, if you've recovered, if you've had COVID and you can prove you've had it, I don't need to be locked in a hotel for 2 weeks. Thank you very much. I'm not a threat to the community. And so all these approaches kind of got pushed out of the way very quickly, and just it became this singular approach that becomes very discriminatory.
I appreciate that. It's definitely something. My only hope was that, throughout COVID, I felt like, for the first time, there was something outside of religion and race that divided people in my lifetime. I felt that way. And it was one of the most divisive things I've seen in such a short amount of time. And I'm going to be honest, I learned probably more during the last 2 years than my entire, and I'm just going to say Bermuda, my entire time in the Bermuda public education system. And I'm telling you what I learned. I learned to try to listen and understand other people. Why? Because I know what it felt like when people were not listening and trying to understand our fight when we were going through something similar. And I really, I got vaccinated last March, right? I'm being very honest on the show. I didn't do no research. I didn't read anything. I just went ahead and did. I wasn't even signed up. I was just present. Literally, I've told my story on the show. I was just present. I didn't meet the criteria at the time, anything, and I just did it, right? But I say that because if, let's say, Sophia, Cannonier, and Michael Watson were out sooner, and when I say sooner, your situation had happened sooner, I probably would have been like, no, this makes sense. I don't think I fit that criteria, and so on. So information and education could be our best friend at times, right? It can, if it's accessible to people. No, that's right. There you go. Accessibility is important, right? It is. And
we did try.
And this is why I say to people, for me, I feel like we have a responsibility in media, not to promote everyone's perspective, but to at least discuss their perspectives, right? Some people look at it as propaganda. I don't. I actually, I used to say about President Donald Trump, I actually don't mind listening to him. And people, oh, you're crazy, his this, is that. I'm like, no. Just because you disagree with a person doesn't mean you tune them out. Because that person you're tuning out may actually say something you agree with that can actually help whatever it is that you're going through. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
So just from a bigger perspective, we all come into this world and we all have our experiences that actually change the way that we see the world, right? So we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. So all my biases, all my discriminations, all of those things I carry with me is how I see the world in front of me. If I have been a victim of a bad situation, I would tend to side with the victim in another situation because I feel the victim in myself. And so for me, that big piece, what you're saying there about creating, and hearing other opinions, is that when you hear other people's opinions, you also, it's an opportunity for you to step outside of yourself, to be able to hear what somebody else is saying so that you can then maybe start to understand their perspective. Because choice ultimately comes from not having a yes or no. Yeah. Choice has to have at least 3 to 4 options, right? If it's a yes or no option, then it's an ultimatum. That's like having a gun against your head. And this is what the vaccine felt like for us, which is if you don't get the vaccine, you can't travel, right? It wasn't an option. There was no option given. If somebody said to us, you can take the vaccine, you can prove that you don't have COVID currently with a PCR test, or you can show that you are recovered and have antibodies, there's options. You open the floor up straight away. It becomes non-discriminatory. But if you just say to people, if you've not had a vaccine, you can't travel. When we know full well that people who've had the vaccine can still transmit the virus, they can still get sick from the virus. So what's the point in getting that vaccine? Yeah. But in terms of the big choices, can we open the floor up to say, let everybody have it? Yeah, let everybody have a choice.
Yeah. Michael Daniels, he's saying, going forward, is there a better way for small communities such as Bermuda to make their wisdom heard in the broader world community?
Absolutely. Bermuda is a microcosm of a bigger organism, which is the world. And we are blessed here in Bermuda. I've been very fortunate to travel a lot with my work over the years, and I always love coming back here. And I see how amazing Bermuda is and how wonderful the place is. This is why Sophia and I fighting so passionately for this, because this comes from a place of compassion for Bermuda. We want Bermuda to heal. We want Bermuda to be successful. And so I do think what we can do here, we hear this expression a lot about being in Bermuda. You can be a big fish in a small sea. And I think Bermuda could be the utopian representation that other people should be looking to. Bermuda, I believe, can be the envy of the rest of the world.
Yeah. One last comment from James Birch. He says, when efficacy drops with new variants doesn't mean the vaccines are then ineffective. Any comment to that?
Well, the efficacy is dropping off partly because the vaccine engineering. So my understanding is that the engineering of the vaccine is not caught up with what the current variant is of the virus. We see the same problem happening with flu shots every year. They have to modify the vaccine to keep up to date with what's going on. So the efficacy dropping off might just be a lag in the manufacturing of the vaccines.
All righty. Sophia, Cannonier, Michael Watson, thank you so much for making time to come on. And please just send us an email so that we can ensure that as much as I want the public to follow this case. I really do, because I probably think that we should discuss the case as it's happening so that people get information, because there's going to be people on both sides with their information in Bermuda where this is taking place. And I've looked at some of the witnesses that you're calling. These are people that many in Bermuda trust. So we'll be looking forward to it. Thank you for your time. And let's keep in touch. Hopefully we can speak with you after the case if it ever takes place.
It's March 21st, March 22nd right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. All righty. Sophia, Cannonier, Michael Watson, if you appreciated that conversation, give them a thumbs up, a love, a like. Don't forget to share these conversations, folks. These conversations are important because it's not about agreeing with everything someone's saying. It's not. It's really about just trying to understand one another. It really is about trying to understand one another. I have said from jump, I appreciate Eugene, not because we agree, but because I appreciate that he has the courage to bring his perspective, not a perspective that he woke up and had, but a perspective that he has based on the information that he's gathered, the research he's done. So thank you for trusting our platform, folks. Don't forget, before we go take a break and come back, you've got 1 week left for a chance to win $500. Only a few people are signed up. So
Really?
yeah, only a few people have done it. Just go on our website to see how you can be eligible, and don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Yeah, Sherry, it might just be you this time. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back daily playing some stuff. Don't let Sherry win, folks.
A lot happens around your home. That is why at One Communications, we have introduced affordable security and video monitoring, because everyone should be able to afford to protect their family. Anytime, from anywhere, One Home Security keeps you connected and puts security in your hands with an easy-to-use smartphone app to control everything. Home security is important to keep you and your family safe. Motion-activated cameras around your home and security monitoring within create a complete security system providing protection both inside and outside your home. Professional monitoring means that there's someone on call with 24/7 protection to notify the authorities and help keep you and your loved ones safe. We are dedicated to whole home protection with indoor and outdoor cameras, smart door locks, motion sensors, and more, so you'll always be connected to what matters most. With professional installation, no upfront hardware fees, and low monthly rates, because keeping your family safe should be affordable for everyone. Total home video monitoring and security, there's no better way to protect your home than with One Home Security.
All right. Thanks again to Sophia, Cannonier, and Mike Watson. Again, if you appreciated that conversation, give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Thanks again to One Communications, Medical House Lindos, and People's Pharmacy for ensuring we're able to do this with you on a daily basis. As always, Sherry, it's time for the Daily Play brought to you by Heineken 0.0 Great Taste No Alcohol. Sherry, I'm ready for you. What you got?
All right. The Dream Team won Olympic gold in what year's
1992
game?
in Barcelona.
Whitney Houston had a massive hit in 1992 with the cover of whose hit?
Dolly Parton, I Will Always Love You.
And my last question.
No, she's looking for a harder one, right? She's looking.
Who was Russia's first elected president?
I have no idea.
Boris Yeltsin. If
Yeah,
what's given one, I thought you would have named that.
I would not have guessed that. Nope, I would not have guessed.
All right, Jamal, I'll give you that. All right,
let me just give myself an air horn. You've got some good, bad, or ugly, or just want to wrap it up? What's final thoughts?
Let's just go ahead and wrap it up.
All right, final thoughts on today's show.
Final thoughts. Senator Jones, like, let's just get some PR, some media, something that we can help this different generation, seasoned generation is the word, with using some better words to convey what they have to say. And Sophia and Mike, it was a pleasure. I enjoyed hearing what they had to say, and I appreciate the information that they are putting out there.
Indeed. I'll just say, what can we learn from the former Senator Marcus Jones situation? We've got to just do better. We've got to evolve with the times. That's it right there. Evolve with the times. We don't have to agree with everything, but we have to do better and know what we can and cannot say in different spaces. I appreciate Eugene, Dean, Sophia, and Mike for trusting our platform to have these conversations. It's not about someone being right and others being wrong. It's literally about just understanding each other, and through understanding, there's respect. But I'm grateful for that. And so thank you once again to them for trusting this platform. Before we do daily inspiration, Nicole Walker says, don't keep reminding them, Jamal, let me win in peace. And Karen Simmons seconds that, says, I also hope the competition stays, but only a few people. Nicole Walker, folks, hey, they're going to win that $500. It's between those two, I'm guessing, man. And Sherry, I guess, what you got for daily inspiration, Sherry?
We all have problems. But it's not what happens to us. It's the choices we make after. Elizabeth Smart.
Indeed. I like that one. What we do after. Thanks again to our partners, Medical House, One Communications, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy, for ensuring that we're able to do this with you on a daily basis. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you next week. Sherry Vanderpool, I'm Jamal Hartman. My friends, make it a safe and great weekend. We are out. Be sober like me, folks. Be sober like me.